This is the website of the agency that I've co-founded with my business partner 4 years ago. As Alicia was saying, before that I worked with Fraser at Picture Production Company, running the interactive marketing team there. I was working it out in my head over lunch. We're actually four years old on Saturday, so it's a good milestone. It's as Alicia also mentioned, and you can probably see, our clients are predominantly Hollywood studios. We've got work up here for Universal, Paramount, Disney, and I'm going to be talking today about what I would call the entertainment industry, as much as you might, or others might call it the film industry, because that's what I know, and I think the key thing is that there are lessons from that will be applicable to some of the projects that are here today, more independent art house projects. I hope so anyway. This was the title of my presentation because I was asked to send a title about 2 months ago, and at that point I had no idea what my presentation would be about, so I simply chose something that it couldn't possibly not be about. And I sort of put the 2014 on the end because I'm not a sort of professional speaker, and I sort of do these presentations once or twice a year, and every year they're different. So what you're going to see now is very current, so current it was written yesterday on a broken laptop. And I have no idea how long it's going to last either. So we've got I think all in 2.5 hours. It might be over in 15 minutes, in which case we'll just have to have a chat. We'll see. I'm going to cover some things as well that might not seem like obviously related to marketing, but I don't think you can have a conversation about marketing nowadays without talking actually about making, about the terms under which people are consuming films, television, documentaries, any kind of media. So we're going to be coming a little bit of a roundabout route, but we will get hopefully to some things later on that can be applied by producers, distributors, and so on. So now there's a new title. Oh, actually, I've got a clicker, haven't I? Shall I try it? Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, good. That's good. I'm encouraged by that. So yeah, we're going to cover a lot of things, and most of them are going to have something to do with Game of Thrones, of which I am a big fan. And I think there are some things we can learn from Game of Thrones about the way the nature of entertainment and consumption is changing. Okay, let's try this. Okay, yeah. So now you know this really is a one-off presentation because, as you're probably aware, I think the Mundial, is that right? Yeah. Mundial kicks off today, and I don't know what time the games are here, but in Britain, some of the games are in the middle of the night, and the government have said that the pubs can stay open overnight so that people can go and watch football in the pubs in the middle of the night, because that broadly is all you have to do as a government if you want to get re-elected in Britain. And no one really thinks that's at all strange that people would go out and sit in a pub in the middle of the night to watch a football match, because it's a live event, and it matters in the moment. You don't go into work tomorrow and ask nobody talk about the football. You know, I didn't see it. I'm going to watch it tonight. You know, and expect people to do that. Once it's happened, it's happened. And this is a picture of some people who look like they could easily be watching a football match to me, but they're not watching a football match. I don't know if anyone would care to guess what they're watching. Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it is written up.
No, I don't. No spoilers, please. Come on, there are some people here who. But I did just hear the right answer. It was this season. It was early in this season. I spent last night watching videos of people watching Game of Thrones, And this was one of the ones I was watching. What I loved about this is about 10 seconds earlier. You can guess which one's read the books, you know? Like, just clearly knows what's coming. And then suddenly you're back to that. And I've used this example because to me, Game of Thrones is like a football match. This is from a recent episode, but I've just done the necessary to make sure I don't ruin it for anybody. But I will wake up at 5 a.m. on a Monday morning, go into the spare room, tell my kids they're not allowed to interrupt, and watch Game of Thrones. And I know for a fact there's at least one person here who does the same thing. I suspect maybe more, because I'm not interested in spending 24 hours waiting for it to be aired on the television. I kind of need to see it. I'm not going to tell you how I see it, but I am going to talk a little bit about piracy. And this is the reason I'm not going to wait 24 hours, because in this case, one of my clients, who really should know better, and don't hunt her down, but she's in LA. She's watched it live. She's as some people seem to need to do, gone and sort of posted something on Twitter about the episode, and I don't want to wake up to that and have my day and my future viewing enjoyment ruined because people are unsympathetic to the fact that other people in other countries might not have seen something. And I don't blame her for it. I sort of understand it, but it's because of that I make it a priority on a Monday morning to watch Game of Thrones. My top priority. Okay, so I don't know if you can read that. It's a post, I think, on The Guardian about the fact that Game of Thrones is the most pirated TV show in the world. There are some numbers in there for the number of illegal downloads. And it says that programs start to be pirated literally minutes after the first airing of a show. Within an hour, we see pretty significant propagation of that content across the internet, and piracy is on the increase. So this, to me, says that whilst piracy might be theft, it's not financially motivated. Not always financially motivated. I think there are a lot of people out there who illegally download content not because they don't want to pay for it, but because they aren't prepared to wait for it. And that's a sort of reality of television and entertainment that I'm going to sort of roll into talking about marketing, because I think we need to think now in terms of moments, in terms of the content we create as an event. And I'm going to show you various ways in which I think we can understand a film as an event and actually sort of play to that as a strength. Now, it's worth adding this, which is the Time Warner CEO, a chap called Jeff Bewkes, saying that actually he's delighted Game of Thrones is the most pirated show in the world, and that it's better than an Emmy. And this is a guy who should be, a spokesperson for the commercial interests of the show, and he's saying actually that they're delighted because it's the most talked about television program, it's the most watched, and actually they've got some great revenue streams that are still intact. So again, I think it's worth coming to this debate and to as we approach putting content online, we're trying to take a slightly more sophisticated point of view than to simply say, if I put it out there and someone watches it and I don't get paid, then it's not in my best interest. I think sometimes it can be, and I'm going to come back to that as well. That's the first bit of talking about Game of Thrones over with. So this leads into a sort of nice sentiment. I can't remember exactly who said this, but they said make something people want. And the context in which I think that's interesting is that I'm here to talk about marketing, and marketing is traditionally understood as being about making people want something. That's the role of marketing and advertising as it relates to a lot of things that actually most of us probably don't know we want, we may not actually want, and we certainly don't need, and advertising and marketing tells us that actually we do want it and we do need it, and some of us for some reason believe it, and that creates a market. But actually, in this instance, as we talk about Thrones, we talk about lots of things. They've made something people want. There's really not much they need to do to sell it. They just need to nurture the community that exists around it and be forward-thinking about how they monetize it. I mean, I'm talking about cinema as an event. Something we work with one of our clients on a great deal is Event Cinema. This website isn't live yet. We're still developing it, but I thought I'd put a grab in there. And I've been speaking to Alicia about this, and I gather that that already, Event Cinema happens here in Poland, productions from other countries, and potentially opera from here and theatre and so on. This is where, I don't know if everybody knows what's meant by Event Cinema, but it's where an opera or a play, or in the case of Matisse, a tour of an art gallery is conducted, is performed, and people can go to the cinemas, buy a ticket, actually at a premium price, and watch that in a cinema. So with something like Matisse, which has been a huge exhibition in the UK, someone will walk around the gallery, talk about the artwork, and people can go to their cinemas, buy a ticket and watch that. I think any conversation that we're having about films where we're thinking in terms of that film playing in a cinema has to take into account the fact that the nature of what plays in cinemas is changing. Event cinema is growing. The blockbusters are still there, and because the blockbusters are there, the studios can make sure that some of the smaller budget films of theirs will also get picked up. It's actually a very difficult time, I think, to get art house and independent films into cinemas, and I think the audience, certainly the younger audience that we would like for those films, aren't going to the cinema to watch those type of films as much as they might have done in the past. So I guess what I'm driving at is, I think one of the things we can usefully talk about today is a different approach to how you release a film, and by extension, market it. Am I talking slowly enough? I talk a bit. Slow it down a bit. I'll slow it down a bit. Sorry, I talk quickly. This is something else I wanted to throw in. It's called Secret Cinema. Has anyone heard of Secret Cinema? Yeah, it's. I went to one. It wasn't a secret cinema. It was called Future Cinema. I went to Bugsy Malone. People dress up. They choose an interesting venue. In this case, it was for the Grand Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson's newest film. I've seen some pictures of the interior. It looked fantastic. I know that Secret Cinema worked with Fox on these, and I actually take quite a significant amount of money. I think the ticket price for this was about £50. Is that right? The tickets for Secret Cinema are about £50, aren't they? So you're talking about adding a lot of value, creating an event around a film, and then charging 5 times what people might traditionally have expected to pay. And I think that's a pretty creative approach to understanding that the experience of going to the cinema and what people want from that experience is changing. And this is something else. This is run by some chaps I know in conjunction with Picture House Cinemas. It's quite simple. You go to the site, you select a film, you pick a cinema, and then you invite as many friends as you can. And if you get above a certain threshold, then the cinema commits to screening the film, which is a nice sort of democratization of the experience. And from a cinema's point of view, if they know that they've sold a certain number of tickets, then why wouldn't they? I mean, everything that we're talking about here is made possible by digital cinema, digital distribution. It simply wouldn't have been cost effective to do this in the past, but now they can download a film overnight, they can show it, and sell some tickets, sell some popcorn. I think these would be an interesting, if there were an equivalent of this in Poland, I'm not sure if there is, I think they would make an interesting promotional partner for a film that was interested in having a theatrical release, in being seen in cinemas, but in a way that the way you could actually build a movement and create an event around the first time people get the chance to watch the film. So staying on multi-platform releasing, and in this case, a premiere. This is a film that Fraser and I first encountered in November out in Luxembourg at a workshop that we do each year. Irish, the guy showing it to us was Irish and yeah, based in York. Interesting project. We saw what was then a promo for what I think was a complete film. They'd finished. They'd certainly shot it, right? And it's got some quite interesting effects. And we both thought it had some promise. We sort of talked to him about the things they might do with it. This screen grab is only from yesterday or the day before, so they've still got a little bit of work to do with this. I don't know how many people are familiar with Kickstarter. It's a crowdfunding platform, probably the best known one, although there are some others. You set yourself a target, and you go out and you seek backers. If you scroll down, you'll be told lots of things that are given to people who donate 5, 10, 15 pounds. They'll be given posters and copies of the script and so on. I think they're doing quite well, actually. I suspect they'll probably make their target. And at the end of that process, assuming they do, they'll have £20,000 to put towards a multi-platform for release for a film that might otherwise have struggled to find the revenue for that. But importantly, they'll also have the momentum and the community that brings. There's a real natural sort of groundswell, and when you see them on Twitter, they've clearly built up some momentum. They have people now supporting and attaching themselves to the project who hadn't done before and who will now feel invested in it. I mean, literally, well, not literally, but I mean, they've made a commitment to it and are that much more likely to go out, talk about it around the release. I think what they've done with that is quite impressive, and it's also sort of encouraging, I think, for Fraser and I to sort of see a project that had potential, but where they seemed to be sort of still at that point where they were working out how to get to market, where they've actually come up with something really quite impressive. I think what I would say about this as well is I think it's a double-edged sword, Kickstarter. I think it's an opportunity, but it's also a real threat to a project. And I know some people who had a film project in mind, they put what they insisted on calling a trailer on Kickstarter, even though it was a promo, and if they'd called it a promo, people might have made allowance for the fact that it wasn't the finished article. Fraser's quite forgiving, but I tend to get a bit more sort of abrasive about it. I just think it goes back to what he said about an audience's expectations. Yes, it's good to challenge sort of the norms and innovate, but in the end, if you are interested in an audience connecting with your film, telling them, as soon as you tell them something's a trailer, they expect to see marketing, they expect to see something polished and that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the other trailers that they watch. If it doesn't, then I think you've missed an opportunity. So it is important to talk in terms of, and they're an important audience. Getting them involved, finding where they spend their time online, engaging them is a good start in terms of the marketing process. In the case of The Knife That Killed Me, they have had to go into that and also into the evangelic viewers in order to reach that Kickstarter target. The evangelic viewers are, people who have a real affinity and attachment to the material, who are not only going to go and watch it on opening night, but who are also going to sort of, buy the script, buy the DVD, and talk to their friends. They're the people who want to be out there having a conversation about a project. And then at the end there, we've got the consuming audience. Now, I think if we go back to Game of Thrones and what we were talking about there, actually, a lot of those evangelic viewers are probably the ones who illegally download it. And in a way, the production company and the broadcaster kind of accept that to some extent, because what they're getting back in return is situations where people, I suppose, like me and like others, talk, far too much about Game of Thrones to people who probably get slightly bored of it towards the end of the night. But there's a value in that. There's a value exchange there. And actually, as long as the consuming audience are paying and are happy to watch it on the terms on which it's available, actually maybe those evangelic viewers, the nature of the relationship that you have with them as a content creator, as a content owner, can be slightly different. And this is definitely the driest chart in here, but this takes us into sort of actually starting to talk about marketing proper.